I never thought I would see the day my own family would throw me out of the only home I had ever known. But that morning, the sun shining through our small living room window felt colder than the winter outside. My suitcase sat on the doorstep, my life folded into fabric and memories, while they closed the door behind me. I am Margaret. I am a transgender woman, and I am sharing my story on Oma True Stories because maybe someone out there needs to know that even when the world pushes you away, your life and your truth still matter. I grew up in a house where love was measured by conformity, and silence was sharper than any words. My mother, quick to anger, would glare at me whenever I showed even the smallest hint of difference. "Why can't you be normal, Margaret?" she'd demand, her voice slicing through the air. My father, quiet and weary, would only nod, pretending not to see the tears that streamed down my face. In that house, to be loved, you had to fit into a shape that was not mine. School was no sanctuary. I remember the boys laughing at the way I spoke, the way I dressed, the way I carried myself. Teachers pretended not to notice, and whispers followed me down every hallway. "She's not like us," they would say, and they were right. I wasn't like them. I didn't belong in their world, and I didn't yet belong in mine. By the time I was 16, I had mastered the art of hiding. Baggy clothes, quiet voice, laughter when everyone else laughed. Inside, though, a storm raged. I longed to look in the mirror and see myself reflected back, the real me. Margaret, not the ghost I had been forced to be. Being a brown girl in a world that judged skin before soul made everything heavier. I was twice othered, first for my skin, then for my identity. Jobs were scarce, respect even scarcer, and yet somehow I survived. Somehow I always did. For decades I buried my truth. I told myself it was safer that way. I wore masks, played roles, and followed the rules. I became the dutiful daughter, the obedient sister, the quiet employee. Yet even in this life of hiding, I found small victories. Every paycheck, every step toward independence reminded me that one day I would claim my life, my body, my identity, fully and openly. The morning they packed my suitcase, I was 34. I had returned home after a long night at work, expecting the usual cold silence. But the living room was different. My belongings were neatly folded into a suitcase, my clothes stacked like bricks, my books and photographs packed with precision, as if they were erasing me from their lives. "Mom, Dad?" I asked, my voice shaking. My mother's eyes were cold. "We can't have this here anymore, Margaret. You're not the child we raised. You're wrong. Just take your things and leave." I wanted to argue, to plead, to make them see me, but no words existed that could change the storm in their hearts. My father just looked down, silent, as if saying nothing could help. I remember standing on that doorstep, the suitcase in my hand, the world suddenly much larger and much lonelier. I wanted to collapse, to scream, to disappear, and yet something inside me, a quiet ember, refused to die. I wandered for hours through the streets of my neighborhood, clutching my suitcase, feeling the weight of rejection pressing down on me. I thought of the little girl I once was, hiding in closets, whispering to herself in the dark, praying that one day someone would see her. No one did. Not yet. That day I realized that family is not always blood. Family can be the people who choose to stay, who see you, who love you despite the world. That realization was both painful and liberating. I found refuge with Clara, a kind woman I had met at work. She had a smile that could warm the coldest winter and eyes that didn't flinch at my story. I told her everything, My childhood, the abuse, the racism, the day my family packed my life into a suitcase. "You're stronger than you know," she said, taking my hand. "Your life is yours to live, and no one can take that from you." Her words became my mantra. Slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild. I found jobs that respected me, friends who loved me, and eventually, a small apartment that was entirely my own. I painted the walls with colors I loved, placed flowers on the windowsill, and let myself breathe for the first time in years. Life has a strange way of testing you before rewarding you. At 55, I met Jennifer, my granddaughter. She had grown into a bright, joyful young woman, and she wanted me to walk her down the aisle at her wedding. At first, I was terrified. How could someone who had been rejected for so long suddenly be celebrated in her family? Jennifer's insistence and her laughter gave me courage. "Grandma, you've always been part of my life." "I want you there," she said, her eyes shining. I chose a simple blue dress, soft and elegant. I did my hair carefully, pinned a corsage on my wrist, and for the first time in decades, I looked in the mirror and smiled. Truly smiled. I was proud. I was present. I was Margaret. The day of the wedding, I walked into the reception hall, every eye on me. Some smiled warmly, some whispered, some stared. I felt a surge of emotion, gratitude, fear, and above all, love. Love for Jennifer, love for Clara, and love for the life I had finally claimed. Of course, my family was absent. The people who had thrown me out all those years ago did not attend. They sent a card instead. "Congratulations, but we cannot accept who you are." The absence stung, but it no longer defined me. I cried yes, for the years lost, for the wounds that would never fully heal, but I also laughed because I had survived, because love surrounded me, because I had lived to see this day. Later, Clara and I sat on the porch, the warm evening breeze brushing our skin. "You look so peaceful," she said softly. I nodded. "I am. Peace isn't about everyone loving you. It's about loving yourself enough to keep living, to keep claiming your space in this world. If you're listening to me on Oma True Stories, thank you for giving me a voice. Thank you for letting me finally speak the words I carried for decades. And if someone out there feels the pain I once felt, know that your life, your identity, and your love are enough. I often think about the little girl I once was, hiding in closets, whispering in the dark, hoping someone would see her. I want to tell her, Margaret, you survived. You survived the rejection, the betrayal, the loneliness. You are not broken. You are magnificent. And now I can say it aloud. I am Margaret. I am whole. I am loved. That day, the memory of my suitcase left on the doorstep has faded, but it taught me one of life's hardest lessons. Love yourself first. Life may turn cruel, people may abandon you, and the world may feel unbearably cold, but your truth, your identity, and your resilience are yours to claim, and no one can take that away. I am 68 years old. I am a transgender woman. I have lived a life of rejection, of pain, and of quiet triumphs, and in the end, I am free.